Hello, and welcome to episode 110 of Nintendo Therapy, a show about the latest Nintendo news and rumors, as well as a celebration of all of the things Nintendo. My name is Kevin, and with me this week for some Nintendo Therapy is Harrison
Hey, welcome back, everyone.
and Sean.
Come with me if you want to live.
And it's Pokemon Day, everybody, at least at the time we're recording this. Our podcast does not move at the speed of Pokemon. I've already seen so many articles written analyzing the Pokemon Presents, uh, wide range of opinions out there. So much just like, the internet is instant. You know what I mean? Our once a week podcast is never going to keep up with that. But we thank you all for checking in with us, and we're definitely going to get into our thoughts on that. So yeah, I guess I'll start. So Pokemon, the only thing I had a thought on was Pokemon Legends ZA, which is the big story.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna buy it. I'm hoping I get to play the other Legends game beforehand. I hope I'll have time because that is a goal I have. Um, but I'll I'll do the negatives and end on the positive. That way we'll end on a good note and people won't think I'm just trashing the game from a simple trailer. It doesn't look like this thing's doing anything to address the complaints people had about Switch generation Pokemon games. Most of it looks like, from what I understand, what Arceus was, with a few differences here and there. The buildings still look mostly like they're there for decoration. And maybe I'm too zeroed in on this complaint, but I think it would have gone a long way to just literally have a shot in the trailer where somebody walks into a store. Like, that would have shown that they're changing things up. Like, there would have been articles about that instantly. I already talked about how the internet is instant. It would have been like stores are back or shops are back, whatever. Um, but if they're gonna keep making games like this, they should just go back to the top down formula we saw on the DS and the Game Boy, because at least then you could go in all the houses and the buildings. We're living in a post Breath of the Wild Nintendo. Stuff like this, uh, it limits how the exploration feels. So I don't know. The sales of Scarlet and Violet, to me, prove that what people want is the open world Pokemon experience, because that was the message that it was sold on. And we haven't really gotten it. I know it's cliche to say, like, turn every Nintendo franchise into Breath of the Wild at this point, but Breath of the Wild Pokemon is something we know people want. And I don't know, aside from that, I'm sure it's gonna be great. That was my biggest complaint, is it looks kinda limited and it looks kinda like they could be doing more and they're just not. Um, and I hate to criticize a game for being something it's not trying to be, because this clearly isn't trying to be a Breath of the Wild experience or anything, Arceus wasn't. So, um, there's that, but I just don't understand why they're not trying to do that, especially with the success of Pal World recently. And as far as the starters go, why do we have 2 starters from Gen 2 and then 1 from 5? Why not 3 different gens or something? That was weird to me. But other than that, I think the real-time battle that they showed off, looks really cool. The how you're moving around the arena and, like, different attacks have different range and stuff like that. So, I think that's gonna be really cool, and, I look forward to exploring the city. I just hope that it feels like a city and not like a Western, town where they put up a bunch of building fronts and you're just kinda walking through the streets.
Sean, did
You know,
you did you watch a presentation or what do you think about ZA before I go?
well, Kevin clearly doesn't want Blazing Saddles Pokemon, so that's fair. I watched the trailer. It was a trailer. It didn't make me go, "Whoa, I gotta get that." So, to me, it felt like a step back from Arceus. Maybe I'm crazy. To some degree, I get that you said the combat thing looks cool, but now it just seems like Kevin was saying you're just walled in a city. So I don't know. Didn't do much for me in terms of changing my mind on jumping in. So I was curious what your thoughts are on it because you're a Pokemon guy.
I think
Well, one other thing I
yeah.
want to say too is like every time, just because I saw it in the footage on our screen here, every time they do one of these reveals of a new Pokemon game, Nintendo's always like, meet these characters, and it's like the most generic characters ever. Like, I don't know, that big, tall, lanky guy looks kind of interesting, but the rest of them really kind of just like generic. You set your create a character to random, and I don't know. If you're gonna have a whole like meet these characters, have crazy characters, have like Lieutenant Surge from the first game and Brock and Misty. These all are like completely different.
Hello, I'm Benji Rando. This is my Pokemon.
All right, that's my last thought. Go ahead, Harrison.
I'll kind of go. So this is the last part of the 20-minute presentation. Anyone listening that didn't hear it, that I didn't watch it. So we're working kind of backwards. This is the most important part, of course, which we had anticipated. We had predicted last week, or I had predicted at least, that uh, this was going to be the big part of the presentation. We weren't going to get like black and white remake. We weren't going to get Gen 10. It was going to be Switch focused. The gameplay that we got certainly was Switch gameplay. And I wanted to start with a positive, but one part I'm super concerned about, I will get into the positives, but the part I'm concerned about is that the Switch 2 gameplay is going to look very similar. And the reason why we're not seeing like interiors and whatever is because it's just not in the game. The wild areas,
No, yeah, I agree. It's probably not in the game. That's why I'm like, come on, guys, you could have.
yeah, the wild areas within the city are interesting. We did not in the trailer at all ever see us go outside of the city, so that's pretty interesting. Imagining, I forget. Do you know what country this is, Lumios? I forget what it
I
is.
think it's influenced by Paris, but I don't think it's like
Okay,
I don't know what like the official
fine. That's
what
fine.
they'll
That
call it is. Yeah.
that that works. So, like let's just say like you lived in Paris and then they had like these parks that were like zoned off where there were Pokemon. And then the rest of the city did like had Pokemon that people owned or tamed, but then there was like these other wild areas. Let me get into the positives.
Well, at first, the wild areas kind of look like bringing your dog to the dog park to me, and I was like, that seems kind of small and limited. But
Same here.
Oh man.
So what I should have started with saying is that Legends Arceus was the best Pokemon game we had on Switch, and Switch is the ultimate console. Basically, it was the best Pokemon game we've had in a really, really long time. And I think that what they showed us for the ZA trailer showed me that it's going to expand on that idea. And if it expands even a little bit, I think this will be the best option for Pokemon game on the Switch. Now, best doesn't necessarily mean that it's great. We've shared
yeah,
many criticisms, concerns about the Pokemon franchise on here, me more than anyone else. But I do think the fact that we are in a much bigger city compared to Arceus, which was one one small city, one small area, and like a bunch of wild areas. We'll see if it's bigger or not. Because the wild areas might not be. We'll see. But that and the battle mechanics, um, even it's showing on the screen now, it's gonna depend on your Pokemon's positioning of how you
yeah,
attack your opponent. Even that, even just that little changes um, are going to make the game a lot better. And that's what I want to say. I think it's going to be a super fun game. Really looking forward to it. We did not get a release date, but we got a release window. So I think that shows us even more that on the first day it's going to be released on both systems. So Yeah, if you're worried like this game looks rough, I don't know if it's for me, don't play it. I would say just wait for now. I would say just wait. But someone like me, it's most likely gonna be day 1 because, Arceus was so long ago, and I've been waiting for that next game to come out. But I don't know, nothing in the trailer showed me that day 1 is going to be a good release. Nothing in the trailer showed me that. The city looks
Yeah.
bare, it looks like an N64 city, um,
Yeah.
Honestly,
is what it
I
is.
was thinking about this, and they would never do this, but I feel like they would make a better game if they made the world like the old style Pokemon games. And then when you entered a battle arena or even a battle, they could make it, they could
Switch.
switch the art styles and switch to this because that's the thing they're doing right is the combat in the games. But all of the world exploring, it's like, well, if you can't do it, don't try. Go back to what you were doing before.
I think that would probably be a better approach to
Yeah.
mix those 2 things.
I have to disagree though. Try, but just do it differently. Stop hiring the same people to do that. And I'll transition here and say that that the new Pokemon Champions game that's coming out, which is going to be mobile and for Switch 2, it's going to be cross play, I guess,
Mhm.
according to what we saw in the trailer. That is getting planned by Game Freak, but it's gonna be developed by Pokemon Works, which is that subsidiary that they, started about a year ago. I think it was, like, 11 months ago that they started it. To me, that's a good sign. Anytime I hear that Game Freak is delegating, even though I don't know what this other company is, um, I hear that they're delegating, and I think in my mind that is good. So, I think they just need
Yeah,
to,
they need
like,
more teams if they're gonna put a game out every year. They've pretty
Yeah.
much shown that.
they need to either get rid of people or add new people or just say like, "Oh, we had Pokemon Snap. That was a good-looking game. It looked good. We should just hire those people to make our games." While Game Freak might have that vision of what the game should be. Of course, like
Yeah.
Game Freak gave us the most like revolutionary game, I'll say almost like ever. So I get it. Pokemon Champions looks cool, and I was I was pretty upset that like watching the trailer, it shows two kids with their Game Boy Color, and then they got the link cables attached, and they're playing Pokemon, and instantly I'm thinking, "Are we getting Gen 1 on NSO? Are we getting a new Pokemon Stadium because they're showing it on the TV as they're playing it on the Game Boy? Are we getting just just old something like something with Gen 1?"
That
And
I
trailer was
still
mean. 'Cause I watched it, I went, "Look, oh." Like, I thought they were same thing as you, like, "Oh, something's coming." No? Oh, it's a new thing. Well, why did you tease us with all these other things?
it'll come at some point. Like they can't they can't not do it. Someday they're gonna release those older gens and probably put it in like we said last week, a collection that's way too expensive. But they'll charge $60 for a Game Boy game. But um it, it it's gonna come at some point. It's just like they just want to prolong it as long as they can, I guess.
Pokemon Champions looks cool, and I'm happy to see they're including Pokemon Home with everything. So speaking of the older Pokemon games, I guess we'll be able to use those. For someone like me who plays Pokemon a decent amount, it encourages me to maybe play Pokemon more and try to get into Pokemon Home so I can get my a shiny Pokemon over into Pokemon Champions. It's being developed. There's no release date. There's no 2025, 2026, anything like that. It's definitely something that I've been asking the company to do, and super excited to see it. It certainly looks like, and it's being advertised as a Pokemon battling game that's going to be more for everyone. So, just very excited to see that. If I want to share any more positivity about this, even though I don't think we're going to be hearing about it at all this year. Um, there is that. Well, and also with that as well, we started the presentation with mobile games and with anime, which I had kind of predicted. The presentation I thought was nice because they did like, here's the smallest thing, anime, and then mobile games, and then here is the updates for Scarlet and Violet, Pokemon Unite, and then we ended with ZA. I thought it was a pretty nice 20-minute presentation. For Trading Card Game Pocket, we're getting rank battles and we're getting mega evolutions, both of which I should have predicted because those were going to come eventually. My question to you guys, do you guys enjoy any type of ranked matches, or hypothetically, would you enjoy any kind of ranked gameplay? Because I do not.
I don't really enjoy, as weird as this sounds, any kind of multiplayer. Like, other than couch co-op, that's my favorite thing to do is like have, like a Mario Party or something like that. But anything online, there's just something about it. Like, I don't know why. It, I don't feel good when I'm winning. I feel like it's unfair when I'm losing. It's just I'm never happy with it. I don't know what it is about online multiplayer. I can't. It's not for me.
I feel like it's changed so much in the last decade that I've just kind of fallen out of it. So I don't have the incentive to play ranked games really. Like, I don't know if like I was really excited that one time I got Street Fighter 2, I actually got a match to happen, but
Mm.
I I couldn't see myself sitting and devoting a night a week or something to playing ranked because I don't have time to get good, and then I could be crazy, but the team thing doesn't seem to mesh very well anymore with people.
Mhm.
So, I don't know, I've just fallen off of it. I haven't had a reason to go back.
On good online experiences are very rare, and I think, like, that's why when there is strong online play or strong online communities, those games do very well. And it's interesting you said, like, 10 years ago because, like, when I was growing up, when online gaming was, like, really just, like, starting out and becoming very, very possible and very, like, popular, man, it was so toxic. And I think
Yeah.
I was turned off of it, immediately. And Kevin, you said you don't know why. I just think it's just, for me, it's just stress. It's just like,
Mhm.
it's for me, it's just never been worth it. So,
Yeah, 'cause that's a good point. Is another factor to it is I definitely feel that I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but I feel like the other person is never going fast enough. They're taking forever. And then when it's my turn, I feel this stress to not waste their time. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do mine as quick as I can. And like it's like this added pressure of like, I don't want to upset this person who I can't even see. So there's that.
question for you, Kevin. When you're, like, at the cashier and they give you the change, do you feel that, like, anxiety as you're putting the money back in your wallet that
Yeah, that's why I use Apple Pay for everything now.
you're taking
Who
too
does
much
not
time?
sponsor this show? But yeah, I use my Apple Pay to just scan my phone for like everything because uh heaven forbid if there's not like a little side area for me to step off into to put the money in my wallet.
Well, here's me paying with my phone, the internet. It's it always takes forever. Just all right. Sorry about,
Bing.
that's me. That's me at the cashier. And
Yeah.
that's the presentation. I mean, I was not surprised, which I think is not bad. And a lot of the Pokemon look cute. I think I'm going with Totodile for Pokemon Legends ZA.
Oh, I'm going
Because
T-Pig.
um that's my other choice. T-Pig is pretty awesome. Totodile is it's a better shiny at least.
Mm.
I think so. But T-Pig is pretty cool. I might have to go with him. It's a cool evolution as well. I had a couple of games I look forward to in March, and then I'm gonna let you guys just do whatever you guys want to talk about for the rest of today. We're recording this in America on February 27th on Pokemon Day, and Glover is out finally.
Oh yeah,
Glover is
forgot about that.
Glover is out today. I forget. Are you guys? How do you guys feel about this game, and how do you guys feel about this remake?
I think the story behind the game is more interesting than the game. I think we've told this on this podcast before how it was almost an ET on Atari situation where they way overproduced too many carts. So even though the game was technically successful, they lost a ton of money on it and had to cancel the sequel. That's kind of an interesting video game history story. Um, because they didn't learn that lesson even though ET had already taught it to them. But as far as the game goes, it's a middle of the road Nintendo 64 platformer. It's good. I'd rather the Nintendo 64 version be on NSO than them polish up a new one.
I mean, I'm just happy that it's another game that's preserved in some way, but I don't really have any desire to jump back into Glover. So,
It's $20. I'm interested to see if they're gonna be doing like an HD graphic upgrade because I think it's pretty rough looking back at it.
I
And
didn't know it was $20. I see it on sale for like $12. I'll probably pick it up.
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking the exact same thing. If and when it's like 40% off, which I'm sure it will be, I think I might pick it up. But yeah, like I wonder if like younger people are going to play this game. I don't know how relevant this game still is in meme culture, but I think it's more popular with the memes than actually it is being a good game.
Mhm.
The culture behind it, the character behind it's more popular than it actually being like, oh, it's a really nice platformer game. Where is DK64 is what I want to know. But I
They're
digress.
saving it. It's coming. They're saving it.
Um, Carmen Sandiego is coming back. It's out March 4th, 29.99, $40 bundle, 50 after the pre-order. This is developed by Gameloft, who did the last Carmen Sandiego game way back in 2008. I wanted to talk about it because I know we've talked about it like once or twice. I have lots of nostalgia for the game series, if we even call it a franchise, whether it's like on an Apple II or an NES. Did you guys play any of these games? Where in time? Where in the world? Any of those?
Yeah. I think they were on most, public school computers for a bit, and it was like that and Oregon Trail, and it was like one of the if you wanted to play a game at school, that was one of the ones available.
I don't remember playing them. I remember watching the PBS show, the game show.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that, but did it have a cartoon, or am I imagining that?
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't think so. Did it? Did it? But
It might have. I don't know, but I'd never really played the games.
I love the NES games to the point where I think I just had everything just memorized in the game. And I learned yesterday they made a Where in North Dakota is Carmen Sandiego, which was an official game they made. They only made about 5,000 copies, and they never officially put it in retail. It might have ended up in a store or something, but they never officially put it in the retail. It was only in North Dakota, and there's only 3 known copies today. I just wanted to share that because Like, you ever like get on Wikipedia and you're like, uh-oh, this is
Yeah.
about to be a deep dive. Like, I'm about to be opening like 5 different tabs and learning about a game that I'm gonna talk about for like 2 minutes.
Well,
Anyways,
I think Wikipedia is part of the reason I ended up being so obsessed with Nintendo as an adult is my last job. I just noticed Wikipedia was one, and fan Wikipedias as well were one of the only sites not blocked, and it was like one of those jobs where I had a lot of downtime, so I spent time reading the Zelda Wikipedia leading up to Breath of the Wild.
how do you say is it sweet? I didn't even look it up before I started this.
I've always said Suikoden. I don't
Suikoden.
know if I'm right or wrong. That's just how I say it, and I'm excited for that too. That and in April drops that collection. Those are my next two purchases for sure. I don't think I'm going to have much in between because as I've been saying since we started this podcast, I'm trying to catch up on my backlog. I'm limiting what I do buy, but those are two that I definitely can't say no to. So I'm going to buy the Lunar collection. I'm going to buy the Suikoden collection.
Comes out March 6th,
I have the
$50.
same relationship with Suikoden that I had with Chrono Cross, where my friend had it growing up. I never had my own file, but I've seen the game enough to know I like it, so I'm gonna get it.
It comes out next week. Yeah, March 6th. More
Mhm.
JRPGs is what I wrote down. That's all I got. The show comes out, and I wrote that down because MLB The Show said last year they're not releasing on the Switch console. They're done. They're done with this. They said, "No, we want that install base. Never mind." So, and you guys have not released your new console. We thought you'd do it now. And then the
That's probably what it was.
last one for this month is Xenoblade Chronicles X, March 20th, $60. Um, again, it seems like everyone who had Wii U played this game besides the people that you can see on the screen right now. So
I'll be adding that one to the backlog. So
that one looks cool.
it
That
does. It looks very interesting.
that one looks like dystopian Xenoblade. So perhaps that's the one that I get into.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the only other game which doesn't have a release date yet because it hasn't even technically been announced, but it is right now video game universe's worst kept secret is everyone knows that the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 announcement is coming. And so Suikoden collection, Lunar collection, Tony Hawk 3 and 4, those are the only games I know for sure I'm getting this year. I know April 2nd is going to come and they're going to have so much in that Switch 2 reveal
Yeah.
trailer that all my plans will be out the window at that point. But I'm definitely getting these three games. And said on here before, I was so upset when I found out when they had that news story about how 3 and 4 were planned and they got shelved because 3 is my favorite one and I've never played 4. That's where I stopped the series. Even though 3 was my favorite, I never went on to 4 because they changed how the game worked and I was like, I'm not into that. So this will be my first time playing 4, so I get my favorite game and a new game in one collection. Can't lose. Really hope that this comes out sooner rather than later, but who knows? It's just a rumor at this point.
So I saw a trailer because I was trying to look at some of the Pokemon stuff, but this summer they have a Terminator 2D coming, which is a like Contra like version of Terminator 2. And it looks pretty awesome. So I was like, you know what? Do more of these type of things
yeah.
because totally get me on board.
If I'm assuming this is real, and if it is real, and I'll be interested to see if it's going to come out on the current Switch generation. And I'd love 3. Pro Skater 4 is just one of my favorite games of all time. I think that's
Okay.
I think that's not usual. I think usually people like their favorite is like I see a lot of people say 1, 2, or 3, or even like Underground 2, which is phenomenal. I mean, the Pro Skater series has so many phenomenal games in it. But 4 I think it's just because it presented the game that I wanted as a kid. Like, I always wanted to have a Pro Skater game where you weren't on the same 2-minute time limit, that you were
Mhm.
more in this world completing those
Okay.
tasks.
You didn't have a gas-powered
I'm
skateboard, you
gonna
actually could
be
walk.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be so excited when this finally comes out. I don't know if they'll go in the same route as 1 and 2 where they, like, do things one for one, but they really change the maps around, or this is gonna be a much more massive expansion. 3 and 4 together is much bigger than 1 and 2 together. So,
Mhm.
it might be more expensive, it might be, like, $10 more expensive, and I'll just be interested to see what they do, and last part I'll say, and I won't go into detail, is that you can even kinda see it on the screen now. There's a lot of lowbrow humor in Pro Skater 4, because Pro Skater
Yeah,
4
well
came out, like, 2002 or 2003, and there was
I
a
tried.
yeah,
lot
that
of
was definitely a time frame for that.
and
Yeah.
there was just a lot of lowbrow, "I'm trying to be edgy, 69," like, a lot of that kind of humor. Um, I wanna
I'm Johnny
know.
Knoxville,
Yeah,
and I'm gonna skate up this ramp. Yeah.
exactly. Giant Knoxville, The Man Show, things like that. I wanna know if they, like, do go into the game and just change those things, because I'm talking about things that are irrelevant to the actual game, unless you're one of those guys that's like, "No, man, I'm a purist, I want those things and those, just things that don't matter to the actual skateboarding game."
I'm
There's
waiting to just see which music they couldn't get, because that seems to be every one of these releases issue. So,
Yeah, and
Well,
it's
they did a mix last time. They did a mix of songs from 1 and 2 and new songs. So it'll probably be the same thing this time.
yeah, it I was Tony Hawk, I'll be so tired of that soundtrack, because I bet people are singing it to him all the time when he's, like,
Well,
out in public.
they're also not just trying to sell this to people who played the originals, but new players as well, so you need to have new songs in there.
nah.
You could have, like, new old songs, but, like, yeah,
I mean, you
like,
can
we gotta have
customize the
some.
soundtrack too. I mean, you could turn stuff off if you don't. That was the best feature, was the fact that if you didn't like a song, you could turn it off and,
Yeah.
it wouldn't show up in the rotation.
Well, I played Pro Skater 4 on my Xbox, and that was the era where,
Oh, yeah.
like, to me, it was so crazy that you could upload your own MP3s to your Xbox system, and that, like, blew my mind, where now I look back and I was like, "Harrison, just put on a CD player," like, just do it that way.
They
But
weren't labeled though. Well, on the original Xbox, they weren't labeled though, 'cause so original Xbox just has a bunch of MP3s still in it from 2002, that are all labeled like track 1, track 2, track 3,
that's
track
awesome.
4.
That's awesome. Yeah, I used to do it on my original iPad where they'd be like, "What are you listening to?" And I'd be like, "Green 3," because I'd have, like, these CDs that I'd make a label for it, and it would be, like, just a green label. So,
Good
I'm
album.
yeah, super excited about this one. I love Pro Skater 4. That's the first game I ever, 100%ed, like, seriously, and
Oh,
100%ed, like, multiple times. So,
And Tony
nice.
Hawk 3 was the last game published for the Nintendo 64, bringing it to Nintendo.
just
Did
crazy.
3 and 4 have, secret characters?
Yeah, 3 had I'm pretty sure 3 was either Wolverine or Spider-Man. Can never remember which game had which, but, I'm not gonna be in
I
this.
don't remember.
It'll be something else.
Yeah, I don't remember which one 3 had. I wanna say Wolverine? I can't remember now.
I
I think
think 2 was
Wolverine.
Spider-Man and 3 was
Yeah,
Wolverine.
yeah, that sounds right.
4
4, no idea.
4, I can't remember. There's one unlockable character I know will not be in the game, but I'm gonna digress from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just a certain few things where it's like, it's not surprising, it's not something that's super bad, it's just we don't need it in a game anymore. Like, those we should just move on. Can't wait for this remake. Sean, what do you have for today?
So, a little more cross-platform rumor. Craig Duncan, who's the head of Xbox Game Studios now, said, "I think it's good for gamers. It's good for our studios. Our studios make amazing games, and we want to give those games chance to reach the broadest audience possible. So even I think back to when I had my studio head. Sea of Thieves reach multiple platforms, being able to remove barriers so those players could play together. I just think it's good for gamers. It's good to have our games reach more places. So I think Microsoft's ramping up to dump a bunch of stuff on Switch too.
That's awesome.
Hey, I'm here for it. I definitely give some stuff a shot.
I would love Switch 2 to have Game Pass. That would be the
That would be
ultimate.
cool.
That would be
Yeah.
the ultimate what the hell is going on right now.
Yeah. I wonder if they would call it Game Pass or if they would just mask it as something else and it would just be Game Pass with a couple of games missing. I went through the list because there's not that many exclusives since
No.
like the new generation came out. And the only one that I thought of that might not be there is Flight Simulator. And that's only because it's such a massive game. But
Yeah.
I did play it on my Series S, not fully optimized, but I did play it. But for example, like a few weeks ago, we talked about not Horizon 4, but Forza Horizon 5 being on the Switch 2 console. And if that's the case, that makes most of these other games possible. Sea of Thieves needs to happen. Like that would
Yeah.
be such an awesome game to have
That would be
early on.
something I'd dive back into online multiplayer for.
God, that
It's pretty fun.
That would be such a good game to have, especially if we are going to have it on some kind of streaming service where a lot of people it's just gonna have a very big player base. And I don't have to buy it. I can
Yeah.
just I can just have it on Game Pass again because last time I played it on Game Pass. Um, Indiana Jones should happen. I think Indiana Jones should come to Switch too. I really want to play it. Uh, I've heard mixed things, but I think it looks awesome.
Yeah, probably fun as hell. So
Yeah, and graphically looks great. It would be a great way to show off the new console. So,
oh, absolutely.
but yeah, I think most of the games on Xbox, I think the majority of exclusives will be cross-platform, whether that's PlayStation and Switch or whether that's just PlayStation.
Yeah.
Like Stalker 2 came out last year. Definitely think that'll be on the next Switch console. Starfield, I'm not sure. I think Hellblade
It probably will.
probably will, you think? Hellblade,
Yeah, Hellblade I could see. Hi-Fi Rush, I can't see them not putting it on there.
Hi-Fi Rush is the perfect Switch game. That needs to come out this year. Hi-Fi Rush feels like one of those games that inspired by
But
Nintendo.
yeah,
It's like a Nintendo-inspired Xbox game, and the last one that I'll mention also needs to come is Psychonauts. Psychonauts
that would
feel
be right
feels
at home
like
on there. Yeah.
feels like an old like N64 GameCube game.
And they've had a lot of success with those older Lucas Arts point and clicks that those guys made before that. So
Exactly.
yeah, I definitely could see that.
Weren't they
The
doing,
weird
speaking of
one,
those, weren't they doing a Maniac Mansion? Like, oh, never mind. No, I know what I saw. I saw a crowdfunded game that was being made like as an homage to Maniac
oh,
Mansion.
they're doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
The weird ones are Halo, Gears, that stuff. I guess they could do it. It just would be really bizarre.
Uh,
You know, like that
that's
first
yeah,
time you played Sonic on a Nintendo console and went, what's going on?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Master Chief Collection is the rumor, and I think that's gonna happen. And yeah, it's gonna no matter what, it's gonna feel weird when it actually does get released. When it does get announced. So yeah, I think a lot of it is I think the majority of it. I don't know what Microsoft is planning to do. Just we want to make our games accessible. Yeah, Fable, Gears, Valheim, all possible, I think. Give us Viva Pinata. I know this is an old game. I know that
Oh, no, Viva Pinata makes sense on Switch too.
Viva Pinata was on DS. There was a DS Viva
Oh
Pinata
yeah,
game.
it was.
So just give us that. It's still available on Xbox, the eShop. So put it on Switch. Make it $5. Make it $10. I'll play it. I want to play it on Switch. Anyways,
Last thing
Cronella's
I oh
Cronella's
no, what do you got?
Mansion. Cronella's
It's
Mansion is the game that's apparently due out at some point this year. Crowdfunded, and it's a spiritual successor to Maniac Mansion. That was what I was thinking.
nice. Excellent. That was good stuff. Last thing I had is my my plan for the lousy Smarch weather. I'm gonna try doing 31 days of Skyrim. See if I can just focus on that in the Spotlight games and see where that takes me. Because it's been a while since I've gone rooting around in there.
is that something? Is that a
Don't root around
reference?
too much; you'll get over encumbered, and you won't be able to walk fast. So
Is that a TV show like Smarch?
that's from The Simpsons.
That's a Simpsons reference.
Oh, okay.
Harrison, you make me feel old.
I don't watch The Simpsons, and The Simpsons are well, it's still around, right?
Yep.
Remember The Simpsons seasons 1 through 9. Okay, I'll come back to that. Um, it's a good plan. I haven't been playing like outside the Spotlight games and what I've been recording online. I haven't been playing that much outside of that. So I think in March I want to play a short Zelda game. I don't know what that's going to be.
Okay.
I don't know if that's going to be Oracle or could I play Phantom Hourglass without playing like some of the other ones? I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess
I would recommend Spirit Tracks before Phantom Hourglass. It's much shorter, and it improved everything that people complained about in Phantom Hourglass.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's less frustrating.
That's a good idea. So
I like
perhaps start
Spirit
with that.
Tracks. I feel like that would like if there's an underrated Zelda game that deserves more love, it's that one.
That's one of them. I agree.
Bring it back, but we don't have time to talk about all
We
the
gotta
Zelda games
talk
that
about
should come back on the next console, which is most of them. You know.
Yeah, we're here to do a spotlight at the end of this show. Let's shine a spotlight on some Metroid. So last week, the randomizer selected the original Metroid and the remakey Metroid. So the original Metroid came out in August of 1987 in North America, August of 1986 in Japan. I have a lot of nostalgia for this game. Even though I didn't like deep dive into the Metroid series until a few years ago. The original NES game and Super Metroid were like big staples of my early gaming days. I used to rent Super Metroid all the time. This was a cartridge that was always in my neighborhood being traded around. I just like I've said on this podcast before, it's one of the only games that I'll like throw on a play and just watch someone on YouTube play it. I don't know if Sean remembers, but Samus was my main in the original Smash Brothers on Nintendo 64 back
oh
in the
yeah.
day.
Yep. Yep.
So I was a Samus main. This is one of the few games like all right, I already said that. I'll throw it on YouTube just to watch people play it. Then there's also like the beep bop beep music of the power up rooms. It's like a comfort sound. It reminds me of the old Screw Attack website from the early 2000s.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because that's what they would play before all their videos. And I think it's interesting that this franchise has one of the most coherent, straightforward storylines for a Nintendo franchise. Like Mario, there is no overarching story really. Zelda, they got that timeline that's all over the place. Kirby, again, not really a linkable story. But this, especially if you only pay attention to the 2D games, has a
Yeah.
very straightforward 1 through 5 story going on. That said, I would not recommend the NES version to new players. It's we'll get into that when we talk about Zero Mission, but I don't know. I think Super Metroid's what made this series what it is more than any other Nintendo franchise that received a Super Nintendo upgrade. Like A Link to the Past, without it, still think Zelda would have continued on, but Super Metroid was like it was almost like a do-over for the start of the series, and I think without it, this game would have been lumped in with games like Balloon Fight and Kid Icarus, who was made by the same people. Um, Ice Climber. We would have been talking about it like those games if it weren't for Super Metroid. So this is great for the NES. I'll hear your guys' thoughts, and then we'll talk. I'll hold on to what I want to say when we talk about Zero Mission.
Man, you really threw me off with Link to the Past right there. You made me start thinking about that. Because I don't, because that's a huge hypothetical to like think like if there was not Link to the Past, like what that franchise was, and if there was not Super Metroid, what would come after that?
I think the Zelda franchise still would have had they didn't have an installment on the Super Nintendo. And yeah, this is a rabbit hole to go down. But I
It,
still think they would have had a Game Boy game because that Game Boy game started development as an attempt to make the original Zelda on Game Boy. So they probably still would have made Link's Awakening. And I think then they would have had a decent enough following to do a Nintendo 64 game, and the timeline would have been very similar.
I mean, I love that you brought it up, and I think there's a lot of comparisons between these two games. And we talked about every year, like we went through like every year in a segment long ago. Uh Crazy that this game, Metroid NES, came out 1 week after. Yeah, after right. Yeah, Metroid came out 7 days after NES Zelda in North America, and just 1 month after
Ooh,
Kid Icarus. So, like, I
that's
was
weird.
I wasn't alive. I know you guys were like super young, but imagine like in 1987. 1987 to me is just I think it's the first year Nintendo really went, this is what gaming is going to be. Like this is what the future of gaming is, and just dictated what modern home console gaming was, because they created a whole new genre with Metroid, even if, it what didn't create a new genre at first. But I mean, that's crazy. Like in a month, they had 3 IPs that are huge. In a week, they had an IP that is the second or third biggest in the company's history, and Metroid,
Mhm.
which is like a top 10 in the company's history.
Right.
So lots of comparisons between just like those two games. Does does a built-in map for the NES game better if it had it?
I think so. I think a big part of the charm of this game is when you have to make your own map. It for you to learn the layout a little better. There's even in the instruction manual for this, left a page for you to draw a map, which is something that they did a few times. I saw in some games growing up, but it was always
Yep.
kind of funny when you'd see it. Or they'd give you like a checklist, or they give you like a page for notes. Like you can't find paper on your own.
Yep. I mean, the original NES Metroid, really all I have on it is the gaming history, but it just has not held up for me. So I really can't get myself to play much of it.
Also has a password system, which I think we
Mhm.
see first with
Not in
Kid.
Japan though. In Japan, you could save your progress because it was on the Famicom disk system, so you could actually save onto the
Yeah.
disk. We get that.
So, like with Kid Icarus, this also had a system. I think that's all I had for NES. Yeah, and then Zero Mission, I was playing through it and researching it. I was trying to think what I would change with Mission, because it feels like a game that is not like a perfect remake, but is it a remake that is missing anything obvious that I'm missing?
You know what's really funny? You talking about what they could have done different. You can find recently surfaced online a beta build where they had a character design for Samus in Zero Mission that looked more like the NES version, where it's got the weird like shrimp shaped head. And they very wisely decided at some point to change that to the Super Metroid style Samus, because but you can see clips of it online. It's really weird looking, and I'm they changed it. Came before we get too far in. Zero Mission came out February 2004 in North America, May 2004 in Japan.
I mean, as far as remakes go, this is like the definitive way to play the original game, honestly.
Yeah.
All the quality of life changes make it such a more enjoyable experience. So,
Yeah, the original is now like a reference point, but even as far as Metroid canon goes, because there's slight changes to the story in Zero Mission, Zero
mm,
Mission is the version of events now too. So if you're just trying to follow the Metroid story, there's not even a reason to play the original.
right.
And
Which, if you're curious, I wrote it down here. The Prime series takes place in between Metroid and Metroid 2, or I guess it's between Zero Mission and 2. So the timeline would be Zero Mission, Prime, Prime 2, Prime 3, I'm assuming Prime 4, Federation Force, Metroid 2, Super Metroid Fusion, and then Dread. That's your timeline.
Okay.
and
Other M is in there somewhere. I didn't even look because most people
is
don't even consider it canon anymore because they hated it so much.
oh, I thought that it wasn't. I thought that was just separate altogether, but I guess
I
It might be
it
because
might
it's what
be.
Samus
people
has a
say.
completely different personality in that game, and I
Yeah.
haven't played it. I wanna play it just to see, but, yeah, the reviews kept me away.
Interesting.
N There's also a new area in Zero Mission. They added, for the first time ever, in the series, we have Zero Suit Samus who, crawls around a new area. Um And, also the Game Boy Advance version, I wanna bring this up, it had a link feature that unlocked an art gallery when you paired it with Metroid Fusion, and we said this on the podcast, like, a year, maybe even longer ago. Data miners found that Nintendo Switch Online has the capability of making this link happen. They just haven't given it to us yet for some reason.
Yeah, that would be cool to see, actually.
Fun.
Um,
Love to always hear that. That seems to always come up in this podcast when we do these games. Yeah,
yeah.
Stop keeping things from us,
yeah,
Nintendo.
features we don't have. Stupid question because I'm not looking it up. 2004 Zero Mission comes out. Is the DS out in 2004? Is that later?
That's later.
That's later, right? Good to
It
say.
might be '05. I'm gonna do that real quick. That should be
I
something
don't
I
think
know.
it was that far after 04, but I don't
Oh
think it
no,
was '04.
November 2004, so the end of the year.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because
That might
2004
be
sounded
Japan
like
though. That might be Japan, and maybe we got it a little later.
it sounded like a kind of a late title for Game Boy Advance, which is
Yeah.
normal,
Oh, we got
especially
it
for
before Japan. What? We got the
Really?
DS in November, and then November 21st, and it looks like Japan got it about a week later in December 2nd. That's weird.
Oh, wow.
take that,
So, I was just
take that.
curious before we get into our rankings, since we've all played it now. Dread has made it really hard for me to go back to these older games.
Oh, you're talking
Has
about
that
original
affect
Metroid?
No, even Zero Mission,
Oh, no.
it's good, but Dread is like the pinnacle for me for these games, and it's just so hard to go back and play the older ones for me.
I'm more of a fan of these side scrolly ones. Oh, never mind. I thought I was confusing Dread with Prime for a second there. Yes, and they did do a remake of the second game, Samus Returns on the DS, which is most closely related to Dread. Like it very, very much resembles Metroid Dread.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I was confusing that with Prime. But even so, I played Fusion for the first time last year and I loved it.
I'm hoping Fusion I'll actually dive through because when Super Metroid comes up, I could talk about it. But I've beaten it. I don't ever need to go back to play it again.
I wish they would do a remake like this. I know I'm not the first person to say this, but for the original Zelda, bringing it back to Zelda, do one where the hints are correctly translated and
Oh yeah.
you know, update the controls a little,
Mhm.
the
Yep.
just like a little touch up. But the thing is, we don't have a handheld system anymore, and that's what these type of projects were perfect for.
We
Right.
do.
Now we have the hybrid handheld, so everything has to be a little bit like the link between Link's Awakening, Echoes of Wisdom style is the perfect example of that. Like they couldn't do any less than that, you know?
Make it make it handheld only on Switch. Just
It doesn't play on the TV.
you put it in the dock, the game says no. The game says, "Uh-uh."
It deletes your file actually. If you try to play it on the Switch, it deletes the game.
Yeah,
You have to buy it
you
again.
tried to cheat. Yeah, you tried to do something that's not allowed. Uh,
You can't have a bigger screen.
yeah.
You buy it again.
For Dread, I just wanted to say that I think the controls in Dread make it the pinnacle 2D Metroid
Yeah.
game now. But a good reason to play these other games is that, in my opinion, Dread is just so freaking hard. I mean,
That's true.
even at the normal difficulty, I think Dread is just a very, very difficult game, and none of them are
But doable. Like I feel like it's the
doable.
perfect I feel like it's the perfect difficulty level where a lot of those bosses I did struggle with, but once I finally did beat them, it felt so good to say like, "Yes, I got you. I got you. I learned your pattern."
Metroid gave you your Souls experience.
And
I did have to look up a YouTube video for some of them, but I got your pattern.
and none of the games are that long. You know,
No.
No.
I
The
think
whole
I
point is to be able to finish them in under 5 hours,
yeah.
so you get the
Right.
good ending.
So that would be my reason to go back. But yeah, the biggest thing that stands out between old and new are the controls, and Dread, they just nailed it. Yeah, I can't wait to see
Well, yeah.
what is whatever is the next 2D Metroid.
I would say Zero Mission nails the controls too. Like the improvements they add to that, even
Mhm.
just being able to shoot diagonally is huge.
So I ranked the original NES Metroid since we're talking about terms of quality here. Uh, Even though I have all my nostalgia for it, I do recognize that there's a reason I watch people on YouTube play it and I don't play it myself. It's
Yeah.
because I don't have the whole map memorized and don't want to draw a map and things like that. So anyway, I ranked this right above Return of Samus on the Game Boy, and it's right below Kirby's Dream Land, also on Game Boy. So in between two Game Boy games, it's at number 45 for the original. And then I might as well tell you where I ranked Zero while I'm here. I ranked Zero much higher. It is very high on my list. I love this game. I ranked it at number 18, puts it right below Mario Party 2, right above. This is going to be controversial, but yes, I'd rather play at this point Zero Mission than the NES version of Super Mario Brothers.
All right. The original Metroid is at 81. That puts it under Rival Turf and above Excite Bike 64. And then Zero Mission did better, but not to the extent you liked it. Put it at 43, so it's under Killer Instinct and just above Pokemon Puzzle League.
For me, I put NES Metroid at 45 and Zero Mission
Oh.
pretty good above that at 28. Think Zero Mission is awesome. It's an awesome it's an awesome remake. I'm kind of lost at what else to like really say about it. And yeah, I played through it, was thinking not much I would change about it. And I also mentioned that Metroid came up as an A tier game franchise on the most recent episode of Harrison Talks Pod featuring Kevin that was on this week. So if you want to know the rest of our tier list, you
Nice.
can go and listen to that episode. Just a little cross promotion before we
By the way,
end.
listener, it's your fault it didn't rank an S. Uh, that was one of our talking points, is that as great a series as it is, it's never connected much with players, and it doesn't sell very well. So you're the thing keeping it from S tier.
Yes,
That's
it's not
fair.
it's not Kevin or Sean or I. It is your fault because we like this
Yeah.
game, so it's your fault. Okay, that's it.
Alrighty, let's
That's all I
find
got.
out what we're gonna be playing next week.
One jam, one jam.
All right, so we're gonna finish out something we started, and this is what made me start pairing games on here. We're gonna do the rest of the Mega Man games. So that's Mega Man on Game Boy. So that's Mega Man 3,
Okay.
4, 5, 3, 4, and 5 on Game Boy. And then we'll have all the Mega Mans reviewed. Again,
A lot of
very
Mega Man.
similar games, so not any point in talking about them individually. But we'll go over the differences, like how Mega Man 3 is basically Mega Man 4. And like they're all like one off from the NES versions. They share Robot Masters and stuff. Yeah, so that'll be a good week. 3 games, Mega Man week. Knock it all out. I imagine they're all gonna rank in a pretty similar spot on the rankings.
Yeah, most likely.
I'm not gonna be like Mega Man 3 is number 10, but Mega Man 4 is number 70. I'm like,
Mega
you're not
Man
gonna
5 is actually my number 3 game.
yeah. Okay, so I'll have to think about those rankings, but tune in next week for that. Keep in mind, all the stuff we said this week, we are Nintendo fans, we're not Nintendo experts, so we probably get a lot wrong. Let us know. Email us at nintendotherapypod@gmail.com. Find us on Blue Sky Nintendo Therapy. Find us on TikTok. I always forget to bring that up. We're on TikTok, Nintendo Therapy there. And
Scan the link.
pretty much, what's that?
And scan the link below if you're watching video.
Oh, yeah.
Brings us
Yep.
to all of your links. We set up a link tree, or Kevin did, because we said we don't know where you guys are. If you're TikTok, Blue Sky, if you're Twitter, you're not getting any updates, so go somewhere else. But hit that link tree and you'll find us wherever, because we make stuff and you want to see that stuff.
All right. And if you made it this far into the podcast, prove it by leaving a comment down below on YouTube. Right, Ridley is stupid. In keeping with our
Ooh,
Metroid theme. And I'll slip this in at the end here. I forgot to say this. It's in my notes, so it's just a funny Metroid trivia fact that I always laugh at whenever I'm reminded of it. Even though the series repeatedly refers to Samus as a bounty hunter, she doesn't do much bounty hunting, and that's because series creator Makoto Kano admitted he didn't know what the term bounty hunter meant when he called her that. So I think that's kind of funny. He just thought it was some sci-fi cool stuff from Star Wars.
bounty
Anyway,
hunters, we don't need their scum.
yeah. So thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week for some Mega Mans.